Hello everyone, welcome back to Conflict Skies and Steel, the channel where the realities of modern war, steel, fire, and sky collide. Today's revelation is one of the most shocking developments to ever emerge from the Middle East battlefield, a twist that no one expected, yet it has happened. The Houthis of Yemen have unveiled and deployed a hypersonic cluster missile that not only broke through Israel's air defenses, but also split midair into multiple warheads, raining destruction with precision and shock value that has sent ripples of fear across Tel Aviv and beyond. This isn't just another missile strike. It's an announcement to the world that even the most sophisticated defense systems can be humiliated, and that nations once written off as underdogs are suddenly capable of redefining 21st century warfare in their own terms. When we examine the exterior of this weapon, it tells a story of brutal simplicity meshed with futuristic menace. Sleek aerodynamic contours carved for speed, coated with radar, absorbing material to slip past detection, the missile looks less like an improvised weapon from a rebel-held desert and more like something engineered in the labs of superpowers. The casing is built to withstand the extreme heat of hypersonic travel, and every inch of the outer shell is optimized for velocity and survivability. Imagine a projectile slicing through the sky at blinding speed, invisible for much of its trajectory, then suddenly appearing over its target too late for defenses to respond. This is what the Houthis have unveiled to the world, and the exterior is a terrifying testimony to how far asymmetric warfare has evolved. Inside, the design reveals deadly ingenuity. A two-stage propulsion system ignites first, accelerating the missile to hypersonic speed, and then triggers a mechanism that splits the warhead mid-air. Multiple smaller warheads scatter, each armed to strike separately, overwhelming defensive systems with sheer numbers. It is not over-engineered, it is practical, stripped of unnecessary complexity, yet devastatingly effective. The interior is not about elegance. It is about guaranteeing that destruction reaches the target regardless of what interceptors try to do. The performance is where the true shock registers. Traveling at Mach 5 and above, this missile is nearly impossible to track in real time. Israeli radars detected the threat, but their layered systems, Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow, were suddenly faced with a new reality. They locked onto the initial body, but when the split occurred mid-air, radars scrambled, interceptors hesitated, and the warhead streaked forward in a swarm, bypassing the protective umbrella that Israel has relied upon for years. For the first time, the narrative of invincibility cracked. A single missile managed to achieve what thousands of rockets could not: demonstrate the vulnerability of one of the most sophisticated defense networks in the world. The strike was not just a test of speed. It was a brutal reminder that even billion-dollar defense systems can be pierced by relatively low-cost innovation. The so-called safety features of this weapon highlight its deadly intent, because this missile carries none of the restraint that Western precision weapons often claim. There is no designed limitation for minimizing collateral damage. Instead, the safety feature lies in its ruthless guarantee to reach its target. The split warheads make interception nearly impossible, ensuring that at least some portion of the payload will break through. In simple terms, the only safety mechanism here is for the Houthis themselves. Safety from failure, safety from wasted effort, safety from the humiliation of interception. For everyone else on the receiving end, there is nothing safe about it, and that is precisely why it has caused panic across Israel and concern across global defense circles. The unique selling points of this missile are terrifyingly effective and explain why this launch has been described as a watershed moment. First, the hypersonic velocity. Speed alone gives defenders only seconds to react, and in that window, mistakes are fatal. Second, the cluster mechanism. Splitting mid-air creates a saturation effect, multiplying the threat. Third, psychological dominance. This is Yemen, one of the world's poorest and most war-torn nations, fielding a weapon system that outpaces the military hardware of wealthier and more advanced states. It turns the balance of pride, perception, and credibility upside down. The Houthis are not just striking Israel. They are sending a message to Saudi Arabia, to the Gulf states, to the United States, and to the global order. Never underestimate what determined fighters can create when pushed into survival mode. When we talk about price, the equation becomes more shocking than the weapon itself. Israel's Arrow and Iron Dome interceptors cost hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars per launch. Defending against hypersonic cluster warheads requires multiple interceptors per target, escalating the price of protection into astronomical figures. In contrast, the Houthis missile, though advanced, is likely produced at a fraction of that cost, especially with support from Iranian or other external expertise. This economic imbalance is devastating. For every missile launched, Israel may be forced to spend 10, 20, or even 50 times the cost in defensive measures, draining resources and pushing its system toward exhaustion. In war, economics often decide the victor more than raw firepower, and here lies the true genius of the Houthis' development. A poor nation can bankrupt a rich one simply by forcing it to keep defending against cheap but effective threats. As we move toward the conclusion, the picture that emerges is stark and sobering. The launch of this hypersonic cluster missile is more than a tactical event. It is a strategic earthquake. Its exterior tells of ambition beyond Yemen's borders. Its interior shows innovation under pressure. Its performance humiliates advanced defenses. Its lack of safety features reflects total war. Its unique selling points shatter assumptions of power, and its price ensures that even mighty militaries cannot afford to ignore the threat. Israel's aura of invulnerability has been pierced, and the message is not just local, but global. Every military watching this knows that the era of simple missile defense is over. Hypersonic cluster technology has entered the battlefield, and it did not arrive from Washington, Moscow, or Beijing. It arrived from Sana'a. For the audience of Conflict Skies and Steel, this is the reality of modern conflict. The battlefield is no longer defined by who has the most money or the most jets in the sky. It is defined by who can innovate faster, who can disrupt more effectively, and who can turn the enemy's strengths into weaknesses. Yemen has proven that even under siege, even under poverty, even under relentless bombardment, the will to fight and the will to innovate can produce weapons that shock the world. For Israel, the challenge has now entered a new dimension. How do you defend against an enemy that cannot be predicted, that constantly adapts, and that is willing to unleash technologies thought impossible just months ago? The Houthis' hypersonic cluster missile is not just a weapon. It is a message carved in steel and fire across the skies of the Middle East. It is a warning that the wars of tomorrow are already here, and they will not be fought on the terms of the old order. They will be fought by those willing to shock the world, those willing to break the rules of cost, scale, and expectation. And today, Yemen has claimed that role.